Hello, my name is Lily Cunning. I am a clinical and community herbalist. I'm also the formulator for Haven Herbs. So if you're watching this video, you either purchased a stress case kit or you found us on YouTube, and I encourage you to check out the stress case kit because this video is a partner to the products that are in the kit. The kit is all about people who are anxious or stressed out and relieving those symptoms. And so this is an accompanying video about lifestyle changes and important things to consider if you live with anxiety, panic attacks, or chronic stress. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And I will share my screen. All right. Today, we are going to talk about stress management, emotional wellness. And again, this is the educational component of our stress case kit. Haven Herbs makes kits that combine education with products on a specific theme. So, let's start off by talking about why chronic stress can actually harm you. Um, so stress is a positive thing. I know it doesn't often feel like that, but stress exists to help you survive, right? Uh, the stereotypical stress response is fight or flight, right? There's also a couple others in that, but let's talk about fight or flight right now. Um, Basically, your body spews cortisol, which is a hormone, in order to get you to safety, right? If you're being chased by a lion, the stress response is your best friend, right? You want to get out of that situation. It shuts down other bodies' processes so that you can focus on escape. Um, and that's why chronic stress can be so problematic because there are other parts of your body that need nutrients, that need attention, aren't getting what they need from your brain. And this puts you at increased risk for all kinds of health problems. Obviously, long term anxiety and depression can come of it, but also gut problems, heart disease, insomnia. You can gain a whole bunch of fat around your middle, which indicates endocrine problems, so long term endocrine problems. Obviously, brain fog and memory impairment, as well as affecting your immune system and making you get ill far more often. So, if you are someone that has been living with chronic stress, we need to get you out of that situation, right? That life that you are living, that lifestyle is not serving you. I know we live in hustle culture in this country, but hustle culture is unhealthy. So we live in a really scary world right now. And people are losing their civil liberties and they're afraid. And there's just a lot of anxiety and stress and sadness and fear, um, which can definitely spike our cortisol response, right? So I just want to acknowledge that all of these tips are here for you so that you can take control of your physiological responses and help to live a less stressful life, regardless of what is going on around you, right? We're going to talk a lot about that today. Um, so, first, I want to ask the question, who's in your support network? Who can you rely on? People who can help you when you need help, people who can listen to you when you need a sympathetic ear, people who make you laugh. They often say that laughter is the best medicine, and it's true. Statistics show that people who have a positive outlook on life and laugh on the regular live longer and are healthier. People who make you feel good, and not just feel good in general, but feel good about yourself, right? Who is that in your life? And pardon me as I drink my morning brew as we talk. But, you know, if you're having a hard time coming up with that list, it sounds like cultivating relationships, is probably going to be at the top of your list. And as adults, it's a lot harder to maintain friendships as well as make new friends. Um, but that is something that I want to draw your attention to because we are social creatures. We can't live this life by ourselves. So we need people to rely on. So let's take a look at that question first. I also want to remind you that when you're dealing with anxiety, panic attacks, stress, depression, all of the basic healthy lifestyle things are still important. You need to eat healthy, right? I know that when you're stressed out, going through the drive through or eating comfort foods, which tend to be carbs and high in fat and sugar are what we crave, but it's not what your body actually needs. We also need you to move around instead of, parking it on the sofa or curling up in bed all the time. We need you to get some movement because movement is going to make you feel better. You also need good sleep. You need to get at least 8 hours, six if you're older, um, and more if you're younger. But the average adult needs 8 hours of good restful sleep where they reach REM states. You need to pursue joy. Your life can't be a relentless drag of work and bed, right? And obligations and chores. You do need to do things that bring you joy, that spark your imagination and creativity, and make you laugh. And you do need to get outside. We live indoors more than ever before, and that's not healthy. Indoor air pollution is higher than outdoor air pollution. We need the sunlight and the fresh air. We need to hear bird song. Studies show that getting outside where you can't hear human activity and hearing bird song in particular relieves stress and anxiety levels. So getting outside is a thing that I want you to schedule, right? When you're having a bad time, hug a tree. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's not. It will make you feel better. All right. We're going to try a breathing exercise because focusing on your breath brings you to the present moment. And before we do this exercise, I want to talk about I forget who told me this. I think it was someone who's a psychotherapist. They said that if you have anxiety, you tend to live in the future. You're constantly like, oh my gosh, I have a deadline. Oh, this thing is coming. Oh, I need to anticipate this. And if you live with depression, you tend to focus your attention on the past. You have regrets, remorse, things that should have been and haven't been. But when you are in the present, none of that exists. You are focusing on what is right in front of you, what is happening in your body, immediately outside your body, and being present more than being focused on the future or the past is a natural state of being for human beings and much more healthy and desirable. So, this is a way to bring your attention back to the present, focusing on your breath. We're going to do what's called the fourfold breath. And what it is you're going to do each of the four movements in counts of four, right? So you're going to inhale for four, you're going to hold it for four, you're going to exhale for four, and you're going to pause for four. And you're going to repeat it over and over. Now, I will tell you, I do this a lot, and I always have problem on counting to four for the exhale. The exhale tends to be, I tend to exhale faster than I inhale, I guess. But do what you can to even out. You're counting to four evenly across all four of these pieces because you want to even your breath out. So let's try it together. I want you to inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4. And as you inhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4. I want you to visualize that you are inhaling connection and storing that connection, and then blowing out all the things that trouble you and keeping them away for 4. And as you inhale, you're breathing in love, because love is felt connection, and you're storing it in your body. And then you're pushing away all of those things that disconnect you, and you're keeping them away. So you inhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4. And you do this to calm your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is your brain and your spinal column, and it sends out all of these flashing impulses when you're stressed. And you need to calm down your central nervous system before you can possibly calm down your endocrine system. Those two systems are the systems that regulate all of the reactions in your body, your nervous system and your endocrine system. Now, the nervous system is fast. It works on electrical impulses, right? And so you can jump to attention and you can work to calm it down much faster. The endocrine system is a series of hormone cascades, starting in the pituitary gland and then moving throughout the body, including the adrenals, right? We talk about adrenal fatigue sometimes. Um, and it takes longer to slow down because those hormones take a while to signal each other and hit those receptors and turn off those reactions. So we first work to calm down the central nervous system, and the endocrine system will follow. But when you get really super stressed out, and afterwards, even after the a moment of stress is gone, you feel nauseous, you feel poisoned, that's cortisol poisoning, right? You have had a huge cortisol spike, and it's because you still have that in your system that you feel its effects, even though you're not running and you're not freaking out anymore. So, focusing on your breath is one strategy to help you calm down and relieve anxious symptoms. There are other ways to be mindful and present, and there are so many different ways to do it. I encourage you to find one that fits into your life and works for you. Journaling is really great, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more because it helps you to map your inner landscape. When we are anxious, we tend to be focusing on the outer landscape, all the things that are surrounding us but are not us, right? Um, but journaling allows you to stop and think and reflect on your inner landscape. So when you journal, and we'll talk about this a little more, think about talking about your feelings rather than what's happening. It shouldn't be a laundry list of what you did. Prayer is another mindfulness exercise. If that's something that you engage in, prayer can be super helpful, particularly if you pray for others. In Buddhism, we have a practice called loving kindness or metta. And that's where you not only um, uh, wish good things for your family and friends and yourself, but also people you find challenging and difficult. And this is a very difficult exercise to do, right? Um, Meta practice isn't complete unless you are doing it for everyone. So it requires some mental discipline. So that is a form of prayer. Sitting practice, what we traditionally think of as meditation, where we sit and we try and clear our mind, we focus on our breath. Um, that is something that is very beneficial and shows dramatic physical health benefits. It is challenging, though, I tell you. And one of the things that made me feel better about my sitting practice was realizing it's not that I shouldn't have any thoughts. It's that when the thoughts come, I witness them, I recognize them, and then I dismiss them, right? Um, it's very difficult to be a human being with no thought, right? Um, but also, you can try hobbies that occupy your mind and body. There are so many different kinds of hobbies out there, honestly. When you're doing them, as long as you're fully focused on the task at hand, whether that's whittling or bingo, hobbies that do that will help you stay present. Mindful eating and cooking, so important. It's something that we do that nourishes ourselves and our loved ones around us. Cooking for others, cooking for ourselves, realizing that you're giving yourself the gift of nutrition when you do so, and then slowly, mindfully digesting that, eating that, tasting all the flavors, making sure we chew everything. One of the problems here in the United States is that we all eat in a hurry. We eat in a rush because capitalism tells us when we're allowed to eat and how long we have to eat and when we need to get back to work. And that's just not healthy for the digestion. So, making sure that you schedule time for a long meal, to socialize with others, to laugh at the table, to have multiple courses, right? Um, is just the best possible thing you can do for your gut health as well as your mindfulness practice. There are also movement modalities like Qigong, Tai Chi, martial arts, and yoga that really help you to get present specifically in your body. That mind body connection is so important. And here in the West, we often separate those so much, and it's not the way we are supposed to inhabit our lives, right? Coloring or handicrafts. I do embroidery. And I really try and stay mindful to make sure my stitches look beautiful and they're the right length and size and direction. Um, for me, that is a really great mindfulness practice. And I also have animals and children in my life. And so playing with them, whether that's games or tag or fetch, playing with the animals and children in my life is a way of laughing and staying present. And of course, games and puzzles, right? Um, really spending some time either with others or by yourself, um, distracting, not distracting, being mindful and present for the interaction that you're having with the game, right? So let's talk about that journaling a little bit more. When you journal, you really want to talk about your mood and your feelings and your inner landscape, not just the to do list of things that you accomplished. If you were at a party and you started feeling sad, that's not a typical feeling that you would associate with being at a party. So, why did this feeling happen? What was happening around you immediately beforehand? Were you in a crowd? Were you talking or were you quiet? Were you alone at the party? Why did the feeling happen and what happened in that moment will help you to sort of process and sift through the details to see if they're associated to something larger in your life. What were you thinking of when you got sad? Who was around you? I'll give you an example. So, through journaling, I was able to process a while back, a friend of mine lied to me. And it really felt like a betrayal. And, she explained why she had lied. And of course, it made sense from her perspective why she lied, but it really was something I was having problems moving past. And through journaling, I was able to decipher that in many ways I considered her kind of an auntie figure, someone that was more than just a friend. And it really brought back a lot of bad feelings from my childhood because my mother and I do not have really great relationships, and my mother often never considered my feelings. So, like, being able to connect those dots and uncover things about yourself will help you to work on those responses and reactions and make yourself a better person and a happier person. Journaling can be super valuable, particularly if you can't afford or can't find a therapist. I know that there's a shortage of really great therapists in the country these days. Um, Being able to sift through it yourself. And I often will journal and, keep going and come back to important entries to kind of sift through it once I have a little bit of distance and perspective. Another way that you can be happier in life and have a more steady emotional outlook is to reframe your thinking with gratitude. As it says here, happiness is an inside job. So you stop looking for outside things to make you happy, either people or stuff, right? And you need to find what brings you joy personally. Now, I'm a very busy person, right? I'm a single mom. I have a business, Haven Herbs, and I also work a job, right, at a nonprofit organization. And so I do juggle quite a bit. And often I find myself muttering, like, oh, I have to do this thing today. Um, but here's the deal. I chose all of my commitments. I did. And I need to remember why I chose them. If you can see it, it says, remember why you started. I keep this on my desk because it's a good reminder. Um, so instead of talking about what you have to do, talk about what you get to do, right? So today I get to make this video that will hopefully help, you know, a bunch of people reframe their thinking and cope with their stress and anxiety. Not only do I get to do it, I'm blessed to do it. Um, Haven Herbs is a labor of love for me. It helps me be of service in the world. I get to make products and do classes and videos like this that I hope are helpful to many. Um, so reframing my thinking from the ungrateful, I have to do this thing, gosh darn it, to I'm blessed to do this thing, even when it stresses me out in the moment. Stress happens. It's your response that counts. Now, as I said before, we live in troubling times, and sometimes we just need a break. And it is okay to take a break, particularly from social media, which tends to be really toxic and unvetted sources of information. And sometimes, we're connected to people, through accident of birth often, that have troublesome opinions that make us upset, right? Taking a break from social media or the news, the conventional media, is okay to do. I used to listen to NPR News religiously in the mornings. Um, and there are some mornings where I just don't know. I start with music, I start with joy, I start with hanging out with my birds. I do a media detox, right? You could take a break. It's totally fine. And I know that many of you are like, how will I know what's going on in the world? Trust me, if you tune in tomorrow or 2 days from now, you will catch up. It's not a big deal. Limit your external sensory input, especially when it hurts you. If you're a very big empathetic person like me, it can hurt your heart to hear people being cruel to one another, people taking away others' social liberties, civil liberties. And so, you know, I stay in touch with the news. I vet my sources of news so I know what I'm getting is legit. And I do it several times a week rather than every day. Here's a big one. Let go of what you can't control. Anxious people tend to want to control everything because they think that that's going to make them feel less anxious, right? Um, but the reality is, you can't control anything but your own self. Um, when you're flared up, take a breath, reflect, maybe journal, release it, release it into the universe. Because honestly, if you think that there is something you can do um, about really big social problems all by yourself in that moment, you are mistaken. I'm not saying don't be active. I'm not saying don't have opinions. That's not what I'm saying at all. There are constructive things you can do. And frankly, if you are engaging in those constructive things, you are less likely to feel anxious about them because you are taking action. Do what you need to do about situations that you can't control. If you have a toxic workplace, do what you can do to respond thoughtfully. Do what you need to do to protect yourself, and do what you need to do to get the heck out of there. Um, if you are in a bad relationship that makes you feel bad about yourself, remove yourself from that person. Um, to get some perspective, to get some respite, and then decide what you want to do. Buddhists say that suffering is the root of all attachment. Uh, or attachment is the root of all suffering. There we go. Um, so, eh, you know, staying detached and not being tied to ego and tied to the lust of result um, is one way of feeling freer, lighter, and less stressed. It's easier said than done, I know, but ask yourself questions, right? Okay, this thing is really stressing me out. What, if anything, can I do about it? If the answer is nothing or nothing right now, then let it go. If there is something you can do, of course you should do it. Um, but there isn't always. And knowing the difference is wisdom, right? Let's talk about herbs because I'm an herbalist. So let's first talk about a class of herbs called adaptogens. So here's a quote from David Winston, who's an herbalist. No category of herbs holds more potential for overworked, overstressed Americans than adaptogens. It is true. Honestly, with the daily addition of adaptogens to my life, I am much less stressed. I was on the edge of burnout, brain fog, physical fatigue, not super long ago because I forgot. A doctor is their own worst patient, right? Um, I forgot how to take care of myself. And another herbalist friend was like, Psst, you know. So I took measures. And honestly, now every morning I drink an adaptogen brew. Yummy. Um, and it fortifies and tonifies me. It strengthens my stamina and my stress response. And it's not that I don't have stress. Like I said, I'm a single mom. I'm the sole breadwinner for my family. I don't get any child support. I have a job, I have a business, and I am trying to build a life as well with friends and family connections. So that can be really stressful to juggle. And I am less stressed than I think many in my situation would be, thanks to my plant and fungi friends. Um, so there are many, many adaptogens. And actually, if you want to get that book, Adaptogens by David Winston, I have that book. It is fantastic. The first half of it talks about adaptogens as a class. The second half of it are monographs for all the known adaptogens there are. And you can find one that suits you and your constitution, your conditions, your symptom manifestation. Um, Ashwagandha, I think, is an herb for our times. It helps with people with stress and insomnia. Tulsi is really great for those who are stressed out and also have blood sugar issues. Reishi is not only an adaptogen, but it's an immunomodulator, meaning our autoimmune dysfunction friends can really benefit from reishi. There are many. I would highly encourage you to check out David Winston's book. I will give a word of caution about rhodiola. I have found in my private practice that rhodiola is far too physiologically stimulating for people that are anxious constitutionally. It's too stimulating and it kind of makes you jumpy. Nobody who's anxious likes being jumpy. But for people that are depressed, on that end of the spectrum, rhodiola can be a true friend. Now, let's talk about nervines as a class of herbs. So there are nervine sedatives, nervine stimulants, and nervine tonics. So nervine sedatives are what you take when you need to chill out. Um, so chamomile, which is shown here, or lemon balm, or skullcap, these are all different kinds of nervines. There is a nervine for every person, and not every nervine is going to be your jam, right? Finding that one that really helps you and your uh, particular body is a journey, and it's actually a really pleasant one. So I highly recommend doing nervines one at a time to figure out which one really makes you feel good. And I will just make a note. I tell this to all my herb students. If the only chamomile tea you've ever had has been pre-bagged stuff you get at the supermarket, you have not truly experienced chamomile. Real chamomile is buttery and floral and tastes like apples and has a profound effect on you. So definitely check out whole flowers of chamomile. You can get them from places like Mountain Rose Herbs, or get an extract, and that would also be helpful. But there is a nervine for everyone. Have fun experimenting and finding out which ones help calm you down the best. Okay, so let's talk about your stress case kit. There are three remedies in your stress case kit. We'll start with anxiety. When you are in a place where you can make tea, and that is not all places, right? But if you're at home and you're freaking out, make yourself a cup of tea. That ritual of getting the kettle on and pouring it over your herbs and covering it so steep and waiting the 15 to 20 minutes for a medicinal brew to steep and then slowly sipping, it's a ritual that can also help to calm you. Physical rituals like that really help anchor um, what you are trying to do by taking this particular tea. All right. Chillax. Chillax is an aromatherapy roll on. You apply it topically anywhere you see blood vessels. So, like, on your pulse points, or you can also do it directly under your nose so that you inhale the aromatherapy. There are essential oils in here that help to calm the central nervous system and really, help calm everything down. So it's also really portable, so you can slip it into a pocket or a purse. It smells wonderful, and it is a unisex smell, so you don't have to, um, you know, if florals aren't necessarily your jam, you don't have to worry. And finally, don't panic. Don't panic is a tincture that shuts down the physiological responses that come with panic attacks so that your body can start calming itself. It is also portable. It's a 1 ounce tincture. So it can go with you if you're, about to give a really nerve-wracking presentation at work, or you're about to have a really hard conversation. It's not gonna alter your ability to make decisions and converse. It's not super sedating or anything, but it does help calm everything down. So, my name is Lily Cunning. I'm the formulator for Haven Herbs. We are the People's Apothecary. This is one of the kits that we have available to you um, for purchase. And take a deep breath. It's just a bad day. It's not a bad life. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to get questions from you on our Ask the Herbalist subreddit, or you can email me at Lily, Lily, at ask, sorry, Lily, Lily, at havenherbs.com. And I will answer your question, and I will also possibly turn it into a podcast. The Ask the Herbalist podcast is also available on our YouTube channel, as well as the Haven Herbs blog. Have a good one.